Consider my needs a weakness and consider my weakness failure, and failure's just embarrassing, so I will keep this to myself. Last few times I gave myself the benefit of any doubt. I turned out to be the thing you're better off without. All I feel is fear, fear. I wanna hold you near, my dear.
Into the Wild exudes a sense of wanderlust that at least every person has experienced once in their lifetime. Our main character is Alexander Supertramp, aka Christopher McCandless. Christopher is a smart guy just out of college who has a bright path ahead of him, but due to a lack of motivation and a strained relationship with his always fighting parents, he decides to embark on a quest all over the United States till he gets to Alaska. Along the way, he meets many interesting people. The first of these strange characters is Rainey and Jane, a hippie couple who are traveling across the country. He ends up finding that their relationship is on the rocks, but with a few wise words he is able to help them through it. Later, he is told that their son is on a similar journey to his as he wanders the country. Later, he comes across a wheat farm where he gets a job from Wayne Westberg. Alex then gets to know Wayne, and this is where his ideas about society are discussed and really talked about, as well as his goal of getting to Alaska, the last great frontier. But only after 2 weeks, Wayne gets arrested for creating black boxes that decode satellite television signals, getting them for free. With Wayne being arrested, Alex continues on his travels, but not before he learns all the basics of survival in the wilderness. Much later into his adventure, he ends up in Slab City, where he finds Rainey and Jane again, this time vendors of old books and things in a part of Slab City, and it's quite the reunion. He also meets Tracy Tarot, a female singer that he gets along with very well. They grow closer to each other before they can really develop a relationship. Alexander decides to continue his journey. He says goodbye and good luck to those he is leaving once again, and tells Tracy to find someone else, someone who can be there for her. After this, he reaches the northern part of California. He meets an old man named Ron Franz. After he takes Chris back to a hobo camp, the old man insists that Chris stay with him. Over time, Chris and the old man become like father and son. Chris learns about the old man's past and his old family. Once again, Alexander leaves, but not before he receives some gear from the old man. As Alexander begins to leave, before he does, it is agreed that once he comes back from Alaska, that Ron can adopt him. Alex eventually makes it to Alaska, where he finds a bus, and uses that as his home base. He lives there, and at first he's doing pretty well, but then the winter hits, and his main sources of food begin to dwindle, until he has no food left. He gets close to cooking a moose, but fails and ruins the meat. Eventually, it gets to the point where he can barely go and retrieve water. Eventually, he resorts to eating the local plant life, but he mistakes one of the plants and eats something poisonous. It gets to the point where he can't eat anything, and he can barely move. All he can do is wrap himself up in a sleeping bag. With that, he becomes too weak and dies, right there, on the bus all by himself, but not before making a realization. He comes to the conclusion that happiness is only true when shared. Everyone he meets along his way, he helped and was helped by them. He learned and grew as a person through others and what he experienced with them. He had a net positive effect on all those he came across, from helping people's relationships to being a good worker and even just being there for someone. He had deep human connections with these people. He was happiest when being with and meeting new people, but he was blinded by his belief that Alaska was the last frontier. He achieved his goal, but found out too late that what really made him happy was those he connected with and cared about. For all the faults that humans have, there's still that spark that joins us together. The story of Chris McCandless is a tragic one, about a man who figured out what was most important to him on his deathbed. He left behind the one person he cared about the most, his sister, for in a way, his own selfish goal of going to Alaska. In that, though, he made people's lives better. Chris McCandless was a real person who passed away on August 18th, 1992. He was found dead on the bus in Alaska. I still haven't completely figured out my feelings on Chris's story. What he did was clearly a fool's errand, yet I can't help but sympathize with his want to explore the world. I guess the best thing to do is learn from what he did and what he said. That happiness is only true when shared.
I didn't think I'd have to write this yet, but have you seen the morning news? I'm the happiest man in my hometown, ruled by a racist country and the blues. I'm really no better than anyone else round here, but I plan to start out with my best foot forward for you. I'm flattered you look up to me, but surprised I have no idea what to do. Everybody, let's get down to the happiest man in town. How can he not be a little proud with a voice so clear and loud? A straight edge catalyst for fun. Never drank till 21. Clearly he knows what to do, so give us your point of view. This morning's meal was had at 2 p.m. I only got up to take my dog outside. My mind is full of things I'm putting on till I decide I'm worth their time. But please don't worry that I'm not doing too well. When the big rush starts and I'm on stage, when the crowd looks and my voice matters, I'll come alive and act my.
What if I were smiling and running into your arms?